Pyramids housed stones and crystals fashioned into devices for manipulating the flow and balance of the cosmic forces. The masons were the artisans who directed the building of pyramids and crafted the devices they housed. The 7 sages were the chief masons among the men of Mars. They used what Nergal revealed to them to design a 5-sided pyramid larger than any pyramid ever built. They calculated where it should be erected.
Cydonia. The mind of the Makanthropos is upon that spot. The point of the mind must be the focal point if we are to maximize our powers of destruction. We will be leaving ourselves vulnerable to hyperdimensional attack. What does that matter if we strike first and deal the death blow?
Cydonia it is, then. It shall be done.
A temple fashioned in the likeness of Lucifer would be built to serve as the command and control center for the Cydonia Strategic Operations Base.
Your people will not worship Lucifer knowingly.
I shall lead my people to commit murder and mayhem. They shall worship by the sword.
Prince Lucifer has the face of the Lord of Spirits. Tell the people the image is that of the face of God.
The 29 nations of Mars were united. The 71 nations of Earth were divided. Nergal would widen the divide and turn the men of Earth against each other.
Atlantis is a monolith among pebbles. We must shatter it if we are to prevail.
We shall turn the many against the one nation.
Let us outfight them.
Phobos insisted. It was he who formed and commanded the Army of United Mars. He was eager to test his soldiers against the vaunted Marines of Atlantis.
Ha ha! And they call me the warrior. Phobos, you shall have your hour.
Mars courted Egypt, Thule, and Cimmeria by favoring them in trade and diplomacy. Mars sold these countries weapons barely above cost. Atlantis became agitated. It postured by deploying its forces off Egypt's coast and along its mainland borders. Deimos convinced Egypt to invite Martian forces into their country for joint training exercises.
Why is there a Martian army on Earth?
President Triton asked the leadership of the Atlantean military and security services.
Is the planet being invaded?
Hardly. 10,000 troops are hardly an invasion, especially since they were invited by the host nation.
Egypt has become a Martian satellite. 10,000 can become tens of thousands easily. Hundreds of thousands and even millions could follow.
Is war brewing?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Mr. President, unless you're willing to order a first strike against Egypt, all we can do is apply diplomatic and economic pressure. We can squeeze Mars out of Egypt, but I strongly suggest we do so carefully.
The Martian economy is flimsy and specialized. If we flood the market with rare metals, we'll strangle their ambitions to death.
Our companies are the ones mining the stuff. They're going to whine to the Senate, and I couldn't blame them. We would be hurting our own economy.
That may be a small price to pay considering the alternatives.
Let's keep the extremes to a minimum.
Impose sanctions on Egypt. We don't need their produce. Our people can pay more for groceries for a little while. I also suggest we pressure our allies to do the same and freeze Martian assets in our countries.
Not yet. Let's hurt them without hurting ourselves.
Sir, we act now while it's easier, or real soon it'll be harder. I strongly suggest we act now.
Atlantis and its allies imposed its sanctions and froze Martian assets. Mars increased its troop presence in Egypt by another 100,000 troops.
Atlantis does not rule the world. We were invited into a sovereign nation to assist in their dealing with subversive minorities within its borders.
The world you mention, it isn't your world.
It is our world, actually. Your Atlantis was founded as a Martian colony. The nations of this world are the provinces of Martian colonization.
That was very long ago.
Long ago or not, President Nergal is arguably your rightful president.
Your claim sounds almost like a threat, sir.
History and law are what they are, whether they are upsetting or not.
Thule and Egypt were in dispute with Shinar over the territories between them. Mars intervened by recognizing the claims of Thule and Egypt, much to the chagrin of Atlantis. Mars surprised the world by invading the territory swiftly, suddenly, and without warning. It outfought the Shinarian army and militias by slaughtering and routing them easily. The armies of Thule and Egypt followed into the territories and secured their claims. Lucius Deimos told the people of Earth,
We were invited by the rightful authorities of these provinces. We were acting within the sovereignty of sovereign nations.
You fight for Thule and Egypt now?
This situation has been festering for generations. The people suffered while their fate languished in the committees of foreign bureaucrats. The people of Thule and Egypt deserve better than to await the grace of elsewhere. We return the people to their people.
Mars actually fought for its allies. Atlantis imposed costly sanctions while parading its forces innocuously. The worlds noticed. The people of Shinar, now under foreign rule, resisted with raids, ambush, and bombings.
They hide among their civilians, kill their women and children. Let the cowards watch if they will not come out and fight like men.
The Martian forces burned and massacred villages and towns. They ravaged the Shinarian neighborhoods and the cities. An old man addressed Ares Nergal as he spoke into the camera of Atlantean journalists.
Our men take up arms against your invasion, and you butcher our women and children. We lay down our arms, and you slaughter us for good measure. Are we to perish whether we fight or surrender? Are you out for blood and nothing else?
Your brother has made quite an impression.
Yes, my president, and he does so in your name. He will rejoice and be glad to hear you are enjoying his campaign.
Nergal uttered in a voice that strangely echoed,
I shall be joining him into the fray. Why have you returned to Mars?
Mr. President, the Atlanteans and Lemurians are marshaling their forces and are imploring their allies to do likewise. I have come to advise caution.
Your brother would surely disagree.
Mr. President, though my brother looks like me, he is not me. He is not your Minister of Enlightenment and Foreign Affairs.
Return to Earth. Assure its nations that the men of Mars come in peace. Claim we regret things are getting out of hand. Announce that I am coming to set things right, personally.
Mr. President, I shall do as you command wholeheartedly. I do not question, but I ask that I may act in wisdom. What is your actual intent?
I shall be establishing my command headquarters for the conquest of the planet Earth.
Mr. President, the men of Earth are 4 billion and we are but a mere 200 million.
A wolf against a flock of sheep favors the wolf.
Mr. President, our broken world is barely habitable as it is. Hyperdimensional warfare is inevitable, and we are especially vulnerable.
Deimos, you endorsed my plans. Why do you hesitate now?
It is better to slay by the dagger than by the sword.
I am the warrior, not the assassin. My warriors are eager, and I mean to oblige them in my honor.
Mr. President, please weaken what is strong before you smite it.
Deimos, you are my shield, and your brother my spear. I use you both accordingly.
I have become death, destroyer of worlds. I have anointed you the god of war. Wage my war.
Nergal's materialized form began to glow as his immaterial nature was aroused. He uttered as with the voice of many,
I am the god of war.
Mr. President, I cannot tell that to the people of Earth without turning them against us. What should I actually tell them?
Behold and spare my coming.
The aspect of Ares Nergal returned to normal as he told Deimos,
Tell them I am coming, and I come in peace.